Grant didn't scream. His silence was worse than any shout, heavier than any object he could have thrown against the stone fireplace wall of that Aspen chalet. He stood in the center of the living room, snow falling outside in thick white flakes against the panoramic window, creating a cruel contrast with the hell burning inside the house. In his hand, Lila's cell phone glowed like an ember, its blue light illuminating his face contorted into a mask of pain and disgust I had never seen in the 3 years we had been together. The scent of pine from the Christmas tree, which minutes before had seemed festive and welcoming, now made me nauseous, mixed with the pungent aroma of whiskey he had spilled on the plush carpet when the bomb dropped. "Say it's a lie, Violet," he whispered, his voice hoarse, broken. He didn't look at me. He was staring at the phone screen. "Say my fiancé didn't spend last weekend in a cheap motel in Chicago with her college ex-boyfriend while I was choosing our wedding flowers with your mother." I was frozen near the kitchen island, holding on tray the canapés I had just taken from the oven, brie with apricot jam. The smell of melted cheese, once delicious, now smelled like decomposing corpses. My hands trembled so much that the porcelain clinked, a sharp and pathetic sound in the silent room. "Grant, I don't know what you're talking about," I said, trying to stay calm, but feeling panic rise in my throat like acid. "I was in Chicago for work. You know that. I have the hotel receipts. I have the meeting records." "The Hyatt receipts?" Lila interjected. My sister was sitting in the leather armchair by the fire, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, holding a mug of hot chocolate with both hands, like an innocent child. But her eyes, Lila's eyes, gleamed with that predatory malice I had known since we were children, when she used to cut my doll's hair and then cry, claiming they had fallen into the scissors. "Grant, show her," Lila said softly, with that tone of sisterly concern that made me want to tear off my own skin. "She'll deny it to the end. It's her pattern. She's a narcissist, Grant. I tried to warn you." Grant lifted the phone and turned the screen towards me. It was a screenshot of a text conversation. The name at the top was Julian, my ex-boyfriend from 5 years ago, a man I hadn't seen or spoken to since graduation. The messages were explicit, graphic. They detailed times, room numbers, and sexual acts I would never describe via text. The date perfectly coincided with my business trip last week. "This is fake," I said, dropping the tray onto the counter with a dull thud. "Grant, look at me. This is fabricated. Anyone can change a contact name on their phone and create a fake conversation. Lila is doing this." "Why would she do that, Violet?" Grant asked, finally raising his eyes. There were tears in them. "Why would your own sister invent that you're a cheating whore on the eve of our official engagement?" "Because she hates me," I replied, the truth raw and unfiltered. "Because she always wanted what was mine. Because she can't stand that I found someone like you, and she's alone and broke at 28. "Oh, of course," Lila chuckled, a sad, theatrical laugh. She placed her mug on the coffee table. "Here comes the victimization. I just wanted to protect you, Grant. I saw the messages pop up on her iPad screen when she left it unlocked in the kitchen yesterday. I didn't want to believe it. I took the pictures because I knew that if I just spoke, she would manipulate you, like she always does." Lila stood up and walked to Grant, placing a hand on his shoulder. The touch was possessive. "I'm sorry, Grant. You deserve better. You deserve someone who doesn't pretend to be the perfect executive while rubbing herself on dirty sheets with addicted ex-boyfriends. Grant flinched from her touch, but he didn't move away from me. He looked like a wounded animal, unsure where to run. "I need some time," he said, running a hand through his hair. I'm going to the bedroom. Don't follow me. I need to think if there's still going to be a wedding tomorrow." "Grant, please, listen to me." "No!" he roared, and the sound made the window panes vibrate. "Don't come near me. If I look at you now, I don't know what I'm capable of." He climbed the wooden stairs of the chalet, his heavy footsteps echoing like hammer blows on my coffin. The master bedroom door slammed shut upstairs. Only Lila and I remained in the enormous room, lit by the fire and the snow. The wind howled outside, but inside, the temperature had dropped to absolute zero. Lila sat back down, picked up her mug, and took a sip, licking the whipped cream from her upper lip with satisfaction. "You should pack your bags, Vi," she said, using the childhood nickname I hated. "I guess the engagement is off. And honestly, it's for the best. Grant is too sensitive for you. You'd eat him alive in 2 years." I walked up to her. The anger I felt wasn't hot. It was icy, surgical. I looked at my younger sister, the golden child my parents always protected, the girl who never had to work a day in her life because she knew how to cry at just the right moment. "You created those messages," I said calmly. "You used a fake chat generator app. I saw that app on your phone last month. Do you think I'm stupid?" "What I think doesn't matter," she smiled, shrugging. "What matters is what Grant thinks, and he saw the proof, and he knows Julian lives in Chicago. The coincidence is perfect, isn't it? Doubt is a powerful seed, Violet, and I just watered it with a gallon of fertilizer." "Why now?" I asked. "Why ruin everything now? The wedding is in 3 months. Dad already paid the plaza deposit." "Because you don't deserve it," she said, and the mask of innocence fell for a second, revealing the festering envy underneath. "You always had everything. The good grades, the job at the architecture firm, the Upper West Side apartment. And now? Grant? Grant Miller, heir to the transportation fortune? No, it's too much." Someone needed to balance the scales. "You're sick," I whispered. "I'm fair," she retorted. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going upstairs to see if my almost ex-brother-in-law needs a shoulder to cry on. You know how vulnerable men are when they're heartbroken. Sometimes they need immediate comfort." She winked at me and started up the stairs. I stood there, in the middle of the room, feeling the world spin. She was going upstairs. She was going to try to seduce him. It had been her plan all along. Destroy my reputation to position herself as the loyal and honest alternative. A classic Lila move. But Lila made a mistake, a fatal mistake. She thought I was the same Violet from 5 years ago, the older sister who cleaned up her messes and stayed quiet so as not to upset Mom. She forgot that I am an architect. My job is to observe structures, find flaws, and ensure safety. And I knew something about this trip to Aspen that no one else knew. I took my cell phone from my pocket. My hands stopped shaking. Lila was so focused on fabricating false digital evidence that she forgot we live in a world of real surveillance. I opened the Nest Home Security app. We rented this chalet from a client of mine. He gave me full access to the automation system. Lila knew about the outdoor cameras and the living room camera. What she didn't know, what no one knew except for me and the owner, was that I had installed a temporary nanny cam in the downstairs guest bedroom. Why did I do that? Paranoia? Maybe. But 3 months ago, I noticed some of my prescription painkillers were missing from my purse after Lila visited us. And my sapphire ring had also disappeared for 2 days, magically reappearing under the sofa. I knew she was stealing. I installed the camera in the room she occupied this weekend to catch her red-handed stealing something: money, jewelry, pills. I wanted irrefutable proof to show our parents and force her into rehabilitation. I never imagined the camera would catch something far worse than kleptomania. I sat on the sofa, ignoring the cold, and started scrolling through the video timeline. Last night, Friday, Grant and I went to bed early, exhausted from the trip and skiing. Lila said she would stay up reading by the fireplace. I scrolled the video to 1:30 a.m. The black and white infrared image appeared on my phone screen. The guest bedroom. Lila was in bed. She wasn't reading. She was sitting up, wearing lingerie that was definitely not pajamas, touching up her makeup in the middle of the night. She was waiting for someone. My heart raced. Could it have been Grant? The doubt planted by her tried to take root in me. Did my fiancé come downstairs in the middle of the night? Was the betrayal double? I kept watching. At 1:42 a.m., her bedroom door opened. A male figure entered. I zoomed in on the image. The resolution was 4K, crystal clear, even in the dark. It wasn't Grant. The height was different. The shoulders were broader. The posture more imposing, more authoritative. The man approached the bed. Lila smiled. That cat who had the canary grin. He extended her arms. The man kissed her. A hungry, familiar, disgusting kiss. He took off his robe. I saw his face. The cell phone slipped from my hand and fell onto the sofa. The air left my lungs, as if I'd been punched in the solar plexus. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. No, it couldn't be. I picked up the cell phone again with numb fingers and rewound. I watched it again and again. The tattoo on his left forearm, an old anchor faded by time. The scar on his right shoulder from rotator cuff surgery 2 years ago. The graying hair at his temples, cut in that impeccable military style. It wasn't Grant. It was Preston. Preston Miller. Grant's father, the family patriarch, the man who was paying for our wedding, the man who, at the engagement dinner last week, toasted family values and loyalty. The man married for 30 years to sweet Evelyn, who was at home taking care of their other son's grandchildren. My future father-in-law who was sleeping with my sister. The nausea returned, violent. I ran to the kitchen sink and vomited pure bile. The shock was so great that my brain refused to process the logistics of it. When did this start? How? They met last Christmas. Could it be? Suddenly, everything made sense. The extra money Lila had recently appeared to have. Her mysterious trips. The way Preston always defended Lila when Grant complained about her. Oh, she's just a free spirit, son. Cut her some slack. Free spirit? Paid whore. I wiped my mouth with a dish towel, throwing it into the sink in disgust. I had the proof. I didn't just have proof that I hadn't cheated. I had the nuclear warhead that would destroy 2 families at once. If I showed this to Grant, I would destroy him. His father is his hero, the pillar of his life. To know his father was sleeping with his sister-in-law, that would shatter Grant into pieces that might never reassemble. But Lila was upstairs now, trying to destroy my life with a dirty lie about an irrelevant ex-boyfriend, while she hid the filthiest secret in history. I heard footsteps upstairs, voices. I walked silently to the foot of the stairs. "Grant, open the door." Lila's voice was honeyed. "I brought more whiskey. You don't have to be alone. She doesn't deserve you." "Go away, Lila." Grant's voice was muffled by the door, but weak. "I want to be alone. Just let me in for a minute. I know how you feel. I know what it's like to be deceived." I squeezed the handrail. She wouldn't stop. She would insist until he opened it. And when he did open it, vulnerable, drunk, and hurt, she would strike. I had no choice. Mercy was over. I returned to the living room. I looked at the enormous 85-inch television mounted above the fireplace. The entertainment system was connected to the Wi-Fi network, the same Wi-Fi as my cell phone. I connected my phone to the TV via AirPlay. I opened the camera app. I selected last night's clip. I paused at the exact momento Preston entered the room and his face was illuminated pela bedside lamplight, segundos antes de berrar-se em minha cisterna neck. Eu ternei o TV volume ao máximo. Depois, eu fui às escadas. "Grant!" Eu ievei. Minha voz não tremeu desta vez. Era a voz de uma mulher prestes a deimar a floresta para queimar o lobo. "Grant, get down here, now!" "Shut up, Violet!" Lila yelled from the landing above, looking down. She seemed furious. "Leave him alone!" "Grant, if you want to know a truth about who was cheating on whom, you say 10 segundos to get down these stairs," I continuei, ignorando Lila. "And Lila, you'll want to see this too. It's your debut film." The bedroom door opened. Grant appeared, looking like a ghost. He looked down, confused. "What do you want?" he asked, tired. "I want to show you King was in Lila's bed last night," I did, "since we're talking about fidelity and morality." Lila froze at the top of the stairs. Color drained from her face so fast she looked like she was made of wax. She knew que eu sabia. O terror em seus olhos foi a primeira real satisfação que eu tive naquela noite. "Não," she whispered. "Violet, don't do this. Come down," eu ordenei. Grant, moved por morbid curiosity or por parte pela estranha autoridade em minha voz, começou a descer. Lila tratou de segurá-lo. "Don't go, it's a trap. She'll show some montage." "Let go of me." Grant pulled away from her and came down. They reached the living room. The TV screen was black, paused, aguardando meu comando. "Você disse que eu traí você com Julian", eu disse, olhando em Grant's olhos. "Você belivou ela, sem as perguntar, sem checar os fatos. Você belivou a palavra da mulher que sempre tentou sabotar-me." "These messages were clear, Violet", ele murmurou, mas havia dúvida agora. "Mensagens podem ser forjadas, Grant. 4K Security Videos com data e hora registrados no server dá um pouco mais difícil." Eu pressionei play no meu celular. O gigante TV screen veio à vida. A imagem distorce, mais clara, do quarto de convidado preencheu a sala. Vimos Lila em cama, esperando. Vimos a porta abrir. Vimos o homem entrar. Grant squintou, confuso. "Who is that? Is that Julian? Então, o homem no vídeo ternou em Interfio. A luz bateu em seu rosto. O som que saiu de Grant's garganta foi indescritível. Era como se alguém tivesse clonjado uma faca em seu pulmão. Ele recuou, tropeçando na mesa de centro, derrubando botes e copos. Dá, ele murmurou. A palavra saiu como um afisgo. No vídeo, Preston Miller, o homem Grant idolatrava, tirou a camisa e deitou-se em Lila. O áudio, capturado pelo sensível microfone, reproduziu sua voz, inesquecível, grave e rouca. I missed you, little slut. Dinner with the family was unbearable since being taught you. E Lila's resposta, cristal clara. I know, Daddy, but now you're all mine, and your idiot son is sleeping upstairs with my frigid sister. Eu pausei o vídeo. O silêncio no chalé foi absoluto, mais pesado que a neve lá fora. Heavier than death. Lila stood at the foot of the stairs. She didn't try to deny it. There was no denying it. She was trembling, looking at the front door as if calculating if she could run in the snow without shoes. Grant was on the floor, on his knees, staring at the TV, frozen on the image of his father and his sister-in-law entwined. He was hyperventilating. Grant, I said softly, I didn't go to Chicago to cheat on you. I went to work, to build our future. Meanwhile, your fiancé was being loyal, but your sister-in-law and your father were too busy laughing at us behind our backs. Grant slowly stood up. The transformation on his face was terrifying. The sadness disappeared. The shock disappeared. What remained was a homicidal fury. He didn't look at me. He slowly turned to Lila. You? He said, his voice low, vibrating with pure hatred. You slept with my father? Lila backed away, hitting her back against the wall. Grant, listen to me. It's not what it looks like. He forced me. He's powerful. Shut up! Grant yelled, grabbing a heavy crystal vase from the table and throwing it against the wall, inches from Lila's head. The vase exploded into 1,000 pieces. Don't you dare lie. I heard you calling him Daddy. I heard you calling me an idiot. He pays my bills, Lila yelled back, dropping the facade, panic tears streaming down her face. What did you want me to do? He offered me a life. He said he was going to leave your mother. I was going to be a stepmother, Grant. I was going to be rich. The confession was worse than the denial. She wasn't remorseful for sleeping with his father. She was justifying it as a career move. Grant lunged at her, but I stepped in between them. Not to save Lila, but to save Grant from committing a crime. Don't touch her, I said, holding his chest. I could feel his heart pounding like a jackhammer. She's not worth going to jail for, Grant. She's worthless. Grant stopped, breathing heavily. He looked at me. His eyes were red, filled with a pain that would take years to heal. I'm sorry, he cried, collapsing into my arms. Violet, my God, I'm so sorry. I doubted you. I'm trash. Shh, I stroked his hair, looking at Lila over his shoulder. You were manipulated. We both were. But now it's over. I looked at my sister. She was huddled in the corner, realizing that her high-stakes gamble had just spectacularly failed. You have 5 minutes to get out of this house, I told her. Grab your things, take your car, and disappear. It's snowing. Where will I go? Call your boyfriend. I pointed to the TV where Preston's image was still frozen. Maybe Daddy has an extra room in the house he shares with his wife. I'm sure Evelyn will love to hear the news. You won't tell her. Lila's eyes widened. Violet, this would destroy the family. This would kill Grant's mother. No, Lila. Grant turned, his face wet with tears, but his voice firm as steel. You killed the family. Violet doesn't need to tell anything, because I will tell. I'm calling my mother now. And then am calling my father to tell him he's dead to me. Lila realized she no more cards to play. She ran to the guest bedroom, the crime scene, haphazardly threw her clothes into her suitcase, and rushed out the front door, disappearing into the snowstorm without looking back. We were left alone, Grant and I, and Preston's ghost on the TV screen. I turned off the television. The room plunged into dimness again, lit only by the fireplace. Grant sat on the sofa, his head in his hands. What are we going to do, Violet? How are we going to get through this? I sat beside him. I didn't touch him. Trust is like a mirror. Once broken, you can glue the pieces back together, but you'll always see the cracks in the reflection. He had believed her too quickly, and I had kept secrets and installed cameras instead of trusting communication. I don't know if we'll get through it, I was honest, but I know what we're going to do now. What? We're going to drink this expensive whiskey your father bought. I took the bottle from the bar, and we're going to watch this family burn. That night, as the storm raged outside, Grant called his mother. I heard her screams through the phone. I heard her crying. I heard the sound of a 30-year marriage collapsing in real time. Preston tried to call Grant 50 times. Grant blocked the number. The next morning, we packed our bags. The wedding was canceled. Not because we didn't love each other, but because the soil where we planted our future had been salted and poisoned. We needed time. We needed therapy. We needed distance from the Miller clan and my toxic sister. 6 months later. I'm sitting in a cafe in Paris, alone. Grant and I decided to take a break. He's in California, rebuilding his life away from his father's shadow. We talk every day, but we haven't gotten back together yet. The wound is deep. Lila? The last I heard, Preston fired her as soon as the scandal broke, and Evelyn filed for divorce, taking half of his fortune. Without Daddy to bankroll her, and rejected by our parents, who finally saw the truth when I showed them the video, Lila is working as a hostess in a bar in Las Vegas. It seems the free spirit life has its price. I drink my coffee and look at the Eiffel Tower. It hurts. Of course it hurts. I lost my fiancé, my sister, and the innocence of believing in simple happy endings. But I gained something more valuable, the truth, and the certainty that no matter how convincing the lie, the truth always leaves a trail. You just need the courage to look at the security camera. And you, what would you do if you found out betrayal was coming from all sides? Would you forgive your fiancé for doubting you? Would you tell his mother? If this story of cross lives and nuclear revelations left you breathless, subscribe to the channel. Leave in the comments, who is the worst villain here? The sister, the father, or the doubting fiancé? You are stronger than you think. The moral hangover from that night in Aspen lasted far longer than the snow in the mountains. When we returned to the city, the life we knew had been obliterated, replaced by a smoking crater of lawsuits, meetings with lawyers, and awkward silences at dinners that never happened. Grant didn't return to the apartment we shared. He couldn't. He said that every time he looked at me, he saw the reflection of the TV screen, he saw his father, he saw the betrayal. He moved to an hotel. I stayed alone in our apartment, surrounded by boxes of wedding gifts that arrived by mail every day, toasters, linen sheets, silver flatware, from guests who still didn't know the party was over before it began. But the real war wasn't between Grant and me. It was between Evelyn and Preston. Evelyn Miller, Grant's mother, had always been a woman of few words and many polite smiles. I saw her as the typical aging trophy wife, passive, who lived to organize charity events and ignore her powerful husband's indiscretions. I was wrong. What I interpreted as passivity was, in fact, the strategic patience of someone accumulating ammunition. When Grant called her that night and told her everything, Evelyn didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just said, "Send the video to my lawyer." 2 weeks later, I was subpoenaed to testify in the divorce proceedings. Preston was trying to invalidate the prenup, claiming Evelyn wasn't entitled to half of the logistics empire because the misconduct in the marriage had been hers, inventing stories of neglect. He was a classic narcissist. Caught red-handed, he attacked the victim. I arrived at the law firm in downtown Manhattan wearing my best black suit. Preston was there, sitting at the head of the conference table, looking 10 years older, but still with that untouchable arrogance. He didn't even look at me. Beside him, to my surprise and horror, was Lila, my sister, the woman who slept with him. She was there, sitting beside him, not as a lover, but as, what, a defense witness? Lila was wearing discreet clothes, no makeup, trying to project the image of a naive girl who had been seduced and confused. When our eyes met, she had the audacity to smile sadly, as if we were both victims of a great Greek tragedy, and not her the architect of the chaos. "Ms. Violet," Preston's lawyer began, adjusting his glasses, "you allege to have a video recording that incriminates my client. However, your sister, Ms. Lila, states in a sworn deposition that the video was manipulated by you, that you have advanced knowledge of digital editing and deepfake technology, and that you created this piece of fiction to destroy Mr. Preston's reputation because he refused to pay more for your wedding." I felt my blood boil, but I kept my face impassive. Was this their play? To deny reality? To turn me into the vengeful, greedy villain? "I'm an architect, not a Hollywood special effects expert," I replied calmly. "And the video isn't on my computer. It's in the Nest Home Security Cloud. The metadata is inviolable. Date, time, source, IP. If you want to question its authenticity, you'll have to sue Google." "Lila says she was never in that room con him," the lawyer insisted, pushing a leather folder across the polished mahogany table, separating my world from theirs. "She claims she was in her room, sleeping, and that you, Miss Violet, used archival footage and facial overlay technology to create an incriminating scenario. We are prepared to hire digital forensic experts to prove this. And if we prove it, not only will Mr. Preston sue you for defamation, but Lila will sue you for emotional distress." I looked at the lawyer. Then I looked at Lila. She kept her chin up, but I saw a bead of sweat trickle down her temple, ruining the perfect foundation she'd applied to look pale and innocent. "Forensics experts?" I repeated, feeling a chilling calm wash over me. It was the calm of someone who knows where the bodies are buried. "Excellent idea. Please hire them, because the video isn't on my hard drive. It's on Google Nest's servers. To falsify that, I would have had to hack one of the world's largest tech companies, alter the server's entry logs, modify the encryption metadata, and do all of that in real time while I was in the room with Grant." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "But if you want to play forensics, let's talk about geolocation. Because I also pulled Lila's Google Maps timeline report from her phone. Do you know where it says she was at 01:42 a.m.? Exactly at the GPS coordinates of the guest bedroom. And do you know where Mr. Preston's phone was? 10 feet away from hers? Preston slammed his hand on the table. The sound was like a gunshot. The mask of control fell, revealing the red, swollen face of a cornered man. "Enough of this bullshit!" he roared, turning to his lawyer. "I told you she was smart. I told you not to underestimate her. She's an architect, for God's sake. She deals with details all day long." "Preston, calm down," the lawyer tried to intervene, but the conference room door opened. It wasn't a dramatic entrance with kicks to the door. It was smooth, the silent click of the lock, followed by the rhythmic sound of designer heels on the hardwood floor. Evelyn Miller entered. Grant's mother had always been an elegant woman, the type who wears pearls to the supermarket. But today, she wore an impeccable white suit that looked like armor. She didn't look at Preston. She didn't look at Lila. She walked to the opposite head of the table, placed her Birkin bag on the chair, and looked at me. "Thank you for coming, Violet," she said, her voice soft but with the hardness of a diamond. "Evelyn?" Preston asked, his voice failing. He suddenly seemed smaller in the executive chair. "What are you doing here? My lawyers told you not to attend." "Your lawyers work for the company, Preston," she replied, turning slowly to him. "And the company, as you may recall from the 30-year-old founding agreement, is 51% owned by my family. The lawyers work for me." She took an envelope from her purse. It wasn't a video. It was papers. Bank statements. "Do you think I need a security camera video to know who you are?" Evelyn laughed, a dry, joyless sound. "Lila wasn't the first, Preston. She was just the most vulgar." Lila flinched in her chair as if she had been slapped. "Miss Miller, "Shut up," Evelyn said, without raising her voice. "You are insignificant. You are an expense in my husband's entertainment and leisure line, literally." Evelyn threw the papers on the table. They slid to a stop in front of Preston. "Transfers to Lila's account. Payment of her New York apartment rent for the past 6 months. Cartier jewelry purchased on the corporate card. You were sloppy, Preston. You thought I was a stupid trophy wife who only cared about flower arrangements. But I'm the person who has balanced your books for 3 decades." Preston looked at the papers. He was sweating profusely now. "Evelyn, can we talk?" he stammered, trying to grab her hand, but she recoiled in disgust. "It was a mistake. She pursued me. She's my son's fiancé's sister. She threw herself at me. I'm a man. I had a weakness." And that's when it happened. The moment I had been waiting for. The moment when the narcissist, to save his own skin, threw his accomplice under the bus. Lila's eyes widened. "What? You said you loved me. You said Evelyn was frigid and that you were going to leave her as soon as Grant got married." "I never said that," Preston yelled, turning to Lila with pure hatred. "You're a glorified escort. You emotionally blackmailed me. You said you'd tell Grant if I didn't buy you that car." The conference room plunged into chaos. Preston and Lila, the 2 lovers who conspired in the shadows, were now devouring each other alive under the fluorescent light. Lila cried, screaming that he promised marriage. Preston yelled that she was a manipulative psychopath. Evelyn watched it all with an expression of absolute boredom. I just observed, feeling a dark satisfaction. The truth didn't need defense. It only needed time. "It's over," Evelyn said, cutting through the shouting. "Preston, you will sign the divorce on my terms, or I will hand over these corporate fund diversion statements to the IRS, and you will go to jail for tax evasion, in addition to losing everything. The choice is yours: poverty and freedom, or poverty in prison." Preston collapsed in his chair. He knew he had lost. Evelyn then turned to Lila. "As for you, darling," she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "you won't receive anything. No alimony, no hush money. And if you try to sell this story to any tabloid, I will sue you until your grandchildren are born in debt. Furthermore, I think your parents would like to know exactly how you paid for that Soho apartment, wouldn't they?" Lila stood up, trembling. She looked at Preston, hoping he would defend her. He didn't even look at her. She looked at me. "Violet," she whispered, "help me, please. They're going to destroy me." I stood up, straightened my suit, and picked up my purse. "They don't need to destroy you, Lila," I said. "You already did that yourself when you walked into that room." I walked out of the room. As the door closed, I heard my sister's hysterical crying echoing in the marble hallway, the sound of a spoiled child who finally discovered that the world isn't her playground. I found Grant in the building's lobby. He was sitting on a leather bench, staring into space. He looked thin, tired. When he saw me, he stood up quickly. "How did it go?" he asked. "Brutal," I replied. "Your mother is a force of nature, Grant. She destroyed them both without raising her voice." He nodded, looking at his shoes. "I'm sorry, Violet. I say this every day, but I'm sorry for my family, for my father, for doubting you." "I know," I said, and touched his arm. The electricity was still there. The love was still there. But there was something else between us now, a mountain of rubble. "Grant, I love you, but every time I look at you now, I see the mess. I see the video. I see Lila." "Me too," he admitted, with tears in his eyes. "I see my father in me, and I'm scared. Scared that you'll look at me and expect me to fail like him." "We need time," I said. "A lot of time. And distance." He agreed. We hugged there, in the cold lobby of a Manhattan corporate building. It was a goodbye hug, but not an end. It was a see you later, maybe in another life hug. 3 days later, I took a plane to Paris. It had always been my dream to live there. I had a pending job offer at a French architecture firm that I had been postponing because of the wedding. I accepted it. Europe did me good. The physical distance from the toxicity of my family and the Millers allowed me to breathe again. I cut contact with my parents after they had the audacity to call me, asking me to forgive Lila because she's going through a difficult time. I blocked their numbers. Peace is non-negotiable. Lila, from what I heard through mutual friends, had to return to my parents' hometown. Without Preston's money and burned in New York society, her socialite options ran out. She now works at the front desk of a gym. They say she aged 10 years in 6 months. Grant went to California. He started a sustainable technology company far from his father's dirty money. We exchanged emails. Sometimes we video call. He seems better, lighter. He told me yesterday he's in therapy to deal with his father's betrayal. I'm sitting at Café de Flore now, finishing my croissant. The waiter brings the bill and smiles at me. The spring sun illuminates Boulevard Saint-Germain. I look at my phone. There's a message from Grant. I'm heading to London for business next week. The train to Paris is fast. Can I treat you to dinner? No drama, no family, just us and the truth. I smile and type my reply. The truth sounds like a great main course. I lock my phone and look at the busy street. Life is strange. Sometimes you have to burn the whole house down to the ground to find the right key in the rubble. Lila tried to destroy me. Preston tried to silence me. Grant doubted me. But here I am.
Drinking coffee in Paris, wearing my own clothes, paying my own bills, and owning my own narrative. Revenge wasn't destroying their lives. Revenge was building a life so good, so authentic, and so vibrant that their existence became irrelevante to my happiness. And you, what would you fazer se a pessoa que deveria ser seu porto seguro become the storm? Would you stay to try and fix the boat, or would you jump into the water and swim away? If this story about the courage to start over e o preço de integridade resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. Leave in these comments, would you give Grant a second chance in Paris? Remember, the happy ending isn't always the wedding. Sometimes it's the divorce from everything that harms you. You are stronger than you think.